What's up everyone? In this video we're doing a deep dive for season 2 episode 4 of House of the Dragon titled The Red Dragon and the Gold. Early reactions suggest that this was one of the best episodes in the Game of Thrones House of the Dragon era, and damn it, I cannot disagree. I told y'all to be patient during the last episode, the action is on the way. By the way, we have done deep dives for all of season 1, and we covered the first 3 episodes of season 2 as well, so check those out if you haven't yet. No time to waste, let's get going. The main event in this episode is the 3-way dragon battle that occurs at Rook's Rest. We'll start by covering the greens, then the blacks, and then move on to the epic and tragic dragon battle at Rook's Rest, and finish off with Daemon's adventures in Harrenhal. So let's start with the greens. We first see Alicent asking the Grand Maester for some Plan B tea. She claims that it's for someone else, but the Maester knows that she's full of shit. Alicent is feeling guilty about misunderstanding Viserys' words about Aegon. Even if she's not going to come clean to others about it, deep in her soul, she wants to know the truth for herself. This leads her to dig for Viserys' old books to try and understand more about Aegon the Conqueror.
When you can't even get your own Grand Maester to back you up on the line of succession that's already been assumed for several episodes now, that's probably not a good sign. Some irony in the fact that Rhaenyra and Alicent have now both had the tea to prevent themselves from having Cole's children. Alicent once looked upon this move with contempt, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of her and Rhaenyra's friendship. Now she's found herself in the same exact spot. I don't think it's a surprise that we got this right after the scene with Corlys and Alan, which we'll get into later, to contrast how differently the situation is for men and women of nobility.
Yeah, good points there. Meanwhile, Cole has been on a death march. He has subdued the castles of Rosby and Stokeworth and added their numbers to his side. We then see him defeating House Darkland. Those who bend the knee to Aegon will be spared, but Lord Darkland stands on business and basically calls Cole a piece of shit before getting his head chopped off.
He's carrying himself like some kind of badass, but this was a very lopsided battle from the start, and when you vastly outnumber the opponent on an equal plane, a win like this is to be expected. I like that Darkland has him clocked right away. If you're going to face execution, you might as well remind the guy swinging the sword that the stranger will come for him someday as well. We're going to get more into what the message from the Raven told Cole after the next scene.
Meanwhile, Aegon is back at King's Landing, and he's fucking pissed about Daemon taking Harrenhal, but Aemon is unfazed since he and Criston Cole have been making moves without informing Aegon. The plan is for Cole to take Rook's Rest, since it's a small castle that should fold easily. Lord Staunton of Rook's Rest also sits on Rhaenyra's council. Taking Rook's Rest will cut off Dragonstone from the rest of land. Aegon gets even more heated when he learns that Aemon and Cole have been doing their own thing, but Aemon checks his older brother in High Valyrian. If Aegon has better ideas, then voice them to the council. Obviously Aegon has nothing to say, and Aemon alphas him in front of the entire Green Council.
Aemon is right, and he's also getting some payback after last week's embarrassment at Aegon's hands. You just can't be doing that stuff, man. Both councils are circumventing their king and queen in some way. The shit talk in Valyrian was the cherry on top. Checks out that Aegon doesn't know how to respond properly. Aemon is the harder working, military-minded brother who wishes he was king himself, who could blame him, continuing to be an off-brand Daemon in many ways.
Alicent is conveniently absent from this meeting since she's dealing with the after effects from the Plan B tea. Larys goes to check on her, which is a way for him to spy, and he sees the Plan B tea, and he now knows that she's pregnant, and he knows that it's probably Criston Cole's. Larys is super smart, and he knows that there's no way that Viserys changed his mind and chose Aegon at the end, but he fucks with Alicent and brings up the topic to her. He's merely there to poke at her a bit and see where the weak spots are.
Larys is obviously jealous of the Alicent and Cole dynamic, has been for a while now. I like how Alicent stands up to him this time through though. The central truth of this conversation is that no matter what Viserys wanted, all we have now is war and instability. Larys was one of the primary levers in this occurring. Without Lionel Strong's death, Otto never comes back into play. The Hightowers don't succeed in weaseling so much control away from Viserys, their little plot never takes root, and Alicent isn't subconsciously biased towards believing Viserys would ever have wanted Aegon to be heir.
Also, the blockade in the Stepstones is really starting to deplete the resources in King's Landing. Aegon grows more restless and ends up having a pretty brutal convo with Alicent. He complains about the council not caring about his opinions, and Alicent counters by basically saying that Aegon hasn't earned shit, so there's no reason for any of these wiser, more accomplished men to give a fuck about what Aegon thinks. She's not wrong, but she's also not doing a great job of being supportive. When Aegon asks Alicent what he should do, she tells him very candidly, nothing. God damn.
In the most brutal way possible, she tells Aegon how it is.
Listen here, you beautiful bitch, I'm about to fuck you up with some truth.
He's been fairly disengaged with the finer details of what's actually going on and has taken no time to study up and learn. Through her reaction, we see some of Otto's teachings shine through. Aegon sending Viserys' books away really hints at his lack of knowledge at the start of the scene, but he is still mourning a dead son, so the advice to chill and study up is also smart in that respect as well. Considering that, maybe she went a little too hard on this.
Yeah, good points there, Daemon. What Aegon needs the most at this time is just some motherly love, man. Meanwhile, Cole's forces are gathered right outside of Rook's Rest. Cole wants to advance in broad daylight, and Gwaine is like, dude, you're fucking nuts. It's a hilarious exchange, and honestly, I'm really liking Gwaine Hightower. As for Aegon, he can't help himself. He must go into battle. Being told by his own mother that he's useless is the last straw, and he does what any man does before making a huge decision, get disgustingly drunk. He heads to the dragon pit to meet Sunfire, and goddamn man, we get this cute scene where Sunfire is so happy to see Aegon. That warms my cold black heart. Sunfire is basically a golden retriever dragon, and he just wants to play with Aegon, not realizing they're about to get into some life-altering shit. Aegon mounts Sunfire and drunkenly flies out to Rook's Rest.
Cole is clearly feeling himself this episode and is carving somewhat of a legacy since he and Aemond are essentially running the entire military. As for Aegon, probably not the best idea to hop on Sunfire half in the bag off that wine, but you have to respect how bad he wants to prove himself.
Alright, let's head over to Team Black and see what leads them into this three-way dragon battle. We first see Rhaenys talking to Corlys at Driftmark, but before she does, she runs into Alan. Rhaenys is no fool, and she clearly knows that Alan is one of Corlys' bastards. Rhaenys actually implores Corlys to treat Alan better and honor him, especially since he saved Corlys' life. Rhaenys also tells Corlys that she's heading to Dragonstone since the small council has been left unattended for the time being. Baela and Jace are too young to control these lords. Remember, Rhaenyra went on that secret mission to King's Landing last episode, so she's still in transit back to Dragonstone.
Rhaenys finding out about her husband's bastard son is some rough timing, but she remains grounded and pragmatic, even though she's fighting a few different battles at once. Corlys needs to get his head in the game. The irony is that Corlys was the one who was so intent on moving toward the throne and seizing a place in the history books.
History does not remember blood. It remembers names.
Yet Rhaenys is the one who understands all the conflict you invite when making a move like that.
Back at Dragonstone, the council is discussing Criston Cole's movements. Cole's army travels by night and mainly through the cover of the trees. Daemon still isn't responding to any of their ravens, and Baela is feeling the pressure from the other lords. Sir Alfred is particularly starting to be annoying and cause dissent. He kinda reminds me of Vaemond in some way.
You can argue that the rest of Rhaenyra's council is making the correct decision in wanting to fight back. However, the only person I would trust to organize dragon warfare in this crew is Rhaenys, and she's still waiting to see if Rhaenyra can pull off any peace. To fight back haphazardly with dragons would have gone against Rhaenyra's wishes at that point, and you're inviting an immediate scorched earth war before Daemon has even mustered ground troops. He's busy tripping out in Harrenhal and is desperately missed for battle planning purposes. An attack right now with dragons would also bring Vhagar out, who's hands down the most formidable fighting force around. You'd need a plan in place like the one Daemon suggested back during episode 1. There's some mild to moderate sexism for sure in a lot of these interactions. Additionally, Rhaenyra put everybody in a tough spot when she took off to prevent war when time is of the essence.
Fortunately, Corlys shows up, and the presence of the Sea Snake gets the other lords to shut the fuck up. Eventually, Rhaenyra also returns from her journey. Her son Jace is pissed that she's been gone, and he's shocked when he finds out that Rhaenyra was at King's Landing speaking to Alicent. Fortunately for the rest of the council, Rhaenyra has now decided that war is the only path. She learns about Cole marching on Rook's Rest, and at first, she volunteers to take Syrax and burn Cole's army herself. However, that would be silly since all the allies raised their banners for her. Jace's expression when Rhaenyra volunteers to go is so funny. Anyways, Jace volunteers to go, but Rhaenyra stops him, citing a lack of experience. This leads to the only natural solution, Rhaenys. The queen who never was bravely offers to take Meleys into battle and meet Cole. Both Rhaenys and Meleys are experienced, so this makes the most sense. Rhaenys gives Meleys a warm hug and pregame speech, and they head to Rook's Rest. Rhaenyra also tells Jace about Aegon's dream, the Song of Ice and Fire, and tells him about the prophecy and all that shit.
Rhaenyra realizes that she might have underestimated what was about to go down. She's got great potential as a queen, but as commander of an army, similar to Aegon, she's still learning the ropes. As you can see, both of them didn't understand the significance of Rook's Rest being a target. Jace has been ready to scrap for numerous episodes, so this should not have been a surprise at all. Rhaenys having the versatility to try and prevent war at all costs, but to also be the first one in battle once it becomes inevitable is unreal. She's been the MVP of Rhaenyra's side since she broke out of the dragon pit. I know the actual conclusion of the Song of Ice and Fire disappointed most of us, but Rhaenyra passing it along to Jace underscores the importance of her own father's lessons and shows there's a ton at stake. It's also simply just a badass way to enter a battle scene.
Alright, we're finally here. It's time for the Battle of Rook's Rest. Cole's army is 14 to 1500 deep, and they rush right in. Lord Staunton's army is volleying arrows in response and slowly picking off some of Cole's army. Out of nowhere, Rhaenys flies in with Meleys, and all of Cole's men start fleeing. Cole says it's all part of his plan. He orders the army to split up to occupy Meleys' attention, and then he tells his men to send the signal. The entire time, Lord Staunton is just like, holy fuck, dragons are insane. The signal is meant for Aemon, who is hiding out nearby with a camouflaged Vhagar. As he's about to join the battle and ambush Rhaenys, he sees Aegon flying in from above. Aemon could fly out and help his brother, but he elects to wait.
Let's run the tape for a second. Sunfire is essentially a show dragon that's known for being beautiful, not as much for fighting. This is a clear mismatch against Meleys, who is much bigger. However, Vhagar's Vhagar, and she towers over the other two dragons.
Aegon rides in while Meleys is barbecuing Cole's army. Gawain sees Aegon flying overhead and is like, what the fuck, Cole, this is your plan? To get the king killed? Cole himself is surprised by Aegon's arrival since this was not part of the plan. He tells his men to send more signals to Aemon, and Cole galvanizes the rest of the men by telling them that their king has joined them in battle. Fuck man, I hate Kristen Cole, but he's pretty damn good in battle. The men get a rush of courage and storm the battlefield. Up in the air, the Dance of Dragons is going on between Meleys and Sunfire. Aegon has no battle experience, so he rushes in trying to burn Rhaenys. Rhaenys is experienced, so she rolls most of the fire off and has Meleys attack Sunfire from below. Since Meleys is the bigger dragon, attacking with claws and bites makes more sense, and Meleys gets a few serious claws in, ripping Sunfire's belly and nearly sending Aegon to his death. Sunfire narrowly avoids smashing into the ground, and as he flies off, some of his blood is spilling and it melts some of the soldiers below. This is such a cool detail to remind viewers that dragon blood is boiling hot. Sunfire is wounded, and Rhaenys has Meleys bite Sunfire's wing from behind. Poor Sunfire, man. But out of nowhere, Aemon flies in with Vhagar. Vhagar is so fucking huge that her flying reminds me of how a spaceship moves in Star Wars. With Meleys and Sunfire tangled up, Aemon flies in and has Vhagar unleash a ruthless fire attack. It's fucked up because Aegon at first is super pumped to see Aemon, but the joy turns to terror as he realizes what Aemon is doing. Although dragons, I believe, are immune to dragon fire, Sunfire is so mangled from Meleys that he plummets to the ground. Humans are obviously not immune to dragon fire, so Aegon catches the full brunt of the flame.
We get a small bit of foreshadowing on this at the start of the episode when Alicent examines the dragon wing with a broken wing, the wing that she had replaced for Viserys back in the day. Sunfire ends up with severe wing damage, and the realm has never been less stable since Viserys handed the keys over. Rhaenys and Meleys have the strongest connection of the three pairs, which means a lot because a dragon tends to bond to its owner's emotions and thoughts. There's a reason that Rhaenys can simply say attack and unleash a more nuanced defense, where Aemon and Aegon just spam Dracarys. Eve Best went into this further in an interview and contrasted the boys' aim of simple destruction of their enemies at any cost, with Rhaenys' goal of just killing their dragons without demolishing everyone and everything else around.
Yeah, Daemon, good points on the experience and the bond that Rhaenys has, since Meleys and her are just way more in sync. Anyways, back to the battle. Rhaenys emerges unscathed from the fire attack. Rhaenys has a chance to escape, but she's a fucking G and turns around to attack Aemon and Vhagar. The two dragons engage again, and even though Meleys is way smaller, Rhaenys has so much more battle experience, so Meleys gets the upper hand in this exchange, landing a few strong swipes on Vhagar's belly while dodging Vhagar's claws. The dragons dance again, and Meleys manages to toss Vhagar to the ground. Cole is on the way to check on Aegon, and the force of Vhagar landing on the ground knocks him briefly unconscious. It also sends a shit ton of dust, dirt, and smoke in the air. Vhagar is fine and gets up and flies off, using the smoke and dust as cover. Rhaenys and Meleys are flying around looking for Aemon when out of nowhere he ambushes them. big ass Vhagar was camping behind the castle, Vhagar has Meleys' neck completely locked in her jaws, so it's pretty much game over. Meleys gives one sad look back to Rhaenys, and both dragon and rider plummet to the ground, dying together. Hey man, I'm not trying to Monday morning quarterback here, but I am surprised that Rhaenys was flying that low to the ground. If she was higher in the air, Vhagar wouldn't be able to lunge at them that quickly, but what the fuck do I know?
As Rhaenys kept circling, you get the same feeling during a horror movie when the main characters won't leave when they have the chance. Of course, Vhagar sets up with the go-to move that she used on Vermax and Jace through the clouds. Starting before the attack, people have overanalyzed, much like myself, that Meleys was touching the water to say goodbye to Corlys one last time on Rhaenys' behalf. Shit, even if that's not accurate, that's straight up moving. She went out like a legend.
Cole wakes up and walks up to Aegon and sees Aemon walking there. At first I thought Aemon was getting ready to finish Aegon off, but on the replay, you could actually see that Aemon has his sword out and is in the process of sheathing it as Cole arrives. Maybe Aemon was planning to kill Aegon in a different manner, who knows? After all, the Dracarys in the air already qualifies as attempted murder. We see Aegon unconscious and burnt up, along with Sunfire who is barely alive. Cole drops to his knees as Aemon walks off.
Rhaenys' death was so damn sad that you hope they reward us with a cold death. Not this time, guys. Sorry. Though it was nice to see him realizing the horrors of the battlefield in real time. I'm not trying to say he was scheduling JV teams, but the Dragon Showdown was by far the fiercest thing he's ever seen. Not a shock that Aemon was about to murder his brother for the crown. We also have Gawain initiating the winning drive post-dragon fight, so Cole is also going to have to face some questions. There's also the fact that Alicent's firstborn now has severe burns and is near death. Not a great result given all that planning that went down. Losing Meleys and Rhaenys is horrendous for the black side, but Aegon is definitely not in great shape either. Plus, Sunfire is going to need some time to recover, and I feel like we're not going to see the same version of Aemon ever again after what went down.
Let's finish this video off by checking in on our favorite baby killer, Daemon. Harrenhal continues to fuck with his head, and his Rhaenyra hallucinations are out of control. He can no longer ignore the fact that he's always been jealous of Rhaenyra, and despite loving her, has also hated her at the same time.
Also, you can find some symbolism in Daemon wielding the sword, responding in anger, and costing young Rhaenyra the crown. Daemon usually solves problems through violence, scheming, or just plain taking off. For all the badassery he's shown us, the guy hasn't really resolved any of his major issues to this point in the show.
Our boy Simon Strong is keeping Daemon updated on Criston Cole's march towards Harrenhal. Daemon meets with Lord Grover's grandson, Sir Oscar Tully. Young Oscar is heir to Riverrun, but as of now, his grandfather is still alive, so he can't make any key decisions. Daemon suggests that Oscar suffocate his grandfather so that he can take control right now, but Oscar is a good kid, so he refuses. So Grover is still in charge, but he's not functional, so he can't raise the rest of House Tully's army. It's a tough situation, so Daemon dismisses Oscar and asks for the head of the Blackwoods, since they clearly aren't afraid to get active.
Honor and duty are both recurring themes this season, and you see it again here with Oscar refusing to do anything without his grandfather's approval. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because the Tullys pretty much remain inactive while Grover is on his deathbed, so he's doing the right thing, but at the cost of any kind of progress. That said, nobody wants to kill their grandfather. On the flip side, Rosby and Stokeworth use Daemon's plan to kill Jaehaerys as a cop-out to join up with Cole rather than face the sword. That at least suggests that Daemon's current way of doing business with sheer brutality hasn't paid off on a large scale.
At the same time, Daemon's hallucinations and inability to sleep get so bad that he eventually drinks a potion made by Alice Rivers. He also has a vision of Aemon, except it's himself in the eye patch. Alice refers to herself as a barn owl in human form, and she can read Daemon like a book.
She's by far one of the stranger characters we've met. There's a slight Melisandre witchcraft vibe here, and it's interesting that she picks on Daemon's insecurities. Coincidentally, this is similar to the dream that he had. Very interesting.
It's a hard thing, I imagine, to give obeisance to one who replaced you as heir.
This isn't the kind of person I'd accept a random concoction from. Not that the list is very long.
Daemon ends up meeting with Sir Willem Blackwood. Willem was the young boy in season 1 who slayed the Bracken boy who was talking shit. I fuck with Willem. He was always fearless and rolled with Rhaenyra. Basically, the Blackwoods are more than down to fight for Rhaenyra as long as the Brackens get some dragon justice in return.
This works out because Daemon desperately needs someone else who has military knowledge and is currently not being haunted by the demons of his past and the spirits of his werewood bed. One thing is for sure, Daemon needs to get the hell out of here. I'm surprised we didn't get Elena vision earlier on. It's the only person aside from Rhaenyra and possibly his daughters in the show that he truly loved. This weird Aemon-Daemon combo from his nightmare ties into this too, considering Aemon now rides Vhagar, Laena's former dragon.
Yeah, cannot wait for what we get next episode. Anyways, appreciate everyone for watching. We will be back with episode 5 shortly.